Hi, welcome to the part 2 of our foot stability video, and I had to break it up in two because this could just go on forever, so I'm really trying to get into it straight away for you. So first thing, understand there's all different foot types. Sometimes people are doing stuff for excessive pronation when in fact they might have a high arch. So it's an easy way to know which one you are. You could stand get out of the shower and you stand on the tiles with your wet feet, you'll be able to see your foot imprint, or you can get a therapist or a really experienced trainer to sort of evaluate you, and that'll give you an idea of what type of foot you have. All right, so most people we see with problems have this one, but there is quite a few that from time to time we see with that, and unfortunately there's not too many of them. All right, so what do we do? What are the exercises now that we know that? Well, firstly we need to create some alignment. So here's some nifty little ways you can do this. All right, so I'll show you how to do that. All right, so let's have a look at this first exercise where really all you need is a couple of lines, and you basically, the couple of parallel lines, you're going to be trying to line the feet up. So you can see here that we've got Mel lining her feet up dead horizontal to the two lines that she's standing inside of. So she needs to line her side of the foot up right on that line, and same with the other one. When you first do this, feels like you're standing pigeon-toed, but as you can see here, we're just creating a perfect alignment. So if there's any gap between the heel and the line there, you try to straighten that up. So see how she's just straightened that up there. All right, so you can see how this looks like she's standing pigeon-toed, and in a way you sort of are, but this is also sort of magnifies problems that you see. And you can see on the left side, Mel's got a lot of issues on the left side. You can see the left knee's a bit more puffy. She doesn't actually have any knee problems to be exact, but she does have a lot of hip problems and been getting pins and needles in the foot and all that sort of stuff. But you can sort of see this knee sort of got quite a good alignment. This one not so much. Sort of starting to really show the signs of rolling in. So obviously it could be something up to do with the hip, but very much to do with something at the foot as well. So which one started off, it's hard to say, but the simple fact is they're both there, so something has to be done about it. All right, so this is the first of the lot of drills that we would use to help correct or help identify problems, but start to get your foot used to the feeling of standing in normal alignment. Excessive pronos tend to splay the feet out. They feel very comfortable like that. This feels very uncomfortable standing like this. And again, it's the feet just wanting to find a better way, which then stiffens the ankle up and moves the hip around. So you can see underneath the foot, and you'll see later on that even more exaggerated what happens. All right, so that's the first part. So if we now look at this from the rear view, and what we're looking for here is the back of the knees, to be honest. You can see her right leg, like that line down there, they call them knee pits, and there's the left one. See how they're already quite different? This one's obviously rolling in a lot more. Again, it could be the hip, knowing that she's got a hip problem, but is it the foot that's contributing to it? Or is it both at the same time? Possibly is. But what we want to try and do is encourage, because we've got the foots on the lines here, you'll already find that people will get their arch from doing that. You see she's got a good arch there. So even the excessively flat-footed person will find an arch comes back when they stand like that. So what we want to do to try and correct this is by having the lines here to keep the foot in place. To correct this, we'll try to get the glute to fire and get a bit of external rotation and unlock the knees, which you'll see in a side-on view in a minute, what happens when the knees are locked out and how it changes everything. So we've asked her here to try and turn the femur, your thigh bone, we want her to kick that out without losing connection of the big toe. So she has to make sure big toe stays on the floor, and we want her to try and externally rotate her femur. You can see how we get a better alignment already. So watch when she falls out, see how that falls out like that, and she wants to hyperextend through here. That's when you'll see people have big calves, and it's not necessarily strong calves, it's more weak feet, and they've just created, just from overworking of the calf, it's become bigger like any muscle, but it's not a good thing because it's just making up for the fact that there's weakness somewhere else within your body. All right, so you can sort of see that nice when she falls out, and then we're getting that
alignment there, this is sort of an exercise in its own right. All right, and you'll see a lot of good things happen to the ankle. All right, so that's the next part. Let's have a look at side on. Okay, so from a side on position here, we get to see, like you can already see a bit of hyperextension in the knees here, and like we just talked about, that's where you get excessive hypertrophy or strengthening of the calf muscle to make up for the fact that the feet are becoming weak or the ankles become rigid. Maybe not even an excessive pronation. You might be a rigid ankle. You might have too high an arch, which giving you a really stiff ankle. So it's not always excessive pronation, but basically you'll see a lot of problems occurring. So what we've asked her to do, she's sort of standing there, and then we're getting her to unlock the knees, and you'll see what happens to see how the pelvis up here, so the pelvis, when she unlocks, so it's tipping really far forward at the moment, unlocks the knees, and you get a better alignment through the entire body. See how the pelvis is more stacked on top now, whereas before it was starting to be more over there. So she's almost like on a forward lean, and that's when you get through the spine here, too much extension. All right, so we get a better alignment standing there, and you can see her foot on the ground there. So we're talking about feet here. So there's that nice arch again. So we're starting to get the system to work together, which is preparing us to then do strengthening exercises, say single leg things and squats, lunges, deadlifts, all those sort of things. All right, so these are just simple drills, the basic postural alignment, I suppose you could say. All right, so let's have a look at some of the individual exercises.
All right, so that was a sort of simple idea on what alignment sort of looks like and how to use some grid lines to assist you in getting in that position. Will feel very awkward at first though. All right, so don't stress too much about that. Okay, so second thing we need to do is mobilise. So we need to mobilise the toes, we need to mobilise the calf, we need to mobilise the top of the foot and also the plantar fascia. So let's have a look at how we do that.
All right, very simple exercise, not really much to do here. All you need to do is get your hand and get your fingers in between your toes. Point of this is to try and spread that foot, and you'll see why in a second that's so important, but is you'll find a lot of people have very narrow feet, and they're impossible for them to spread their toes. If you ask them to spread your toes, they can't do it, and that's a sign of really weakened feet, rigid feet, and that's a very poor way to stabilise it, and like I said, I'm going to show you why in a second. So this is one of the very first exercises you can use to start helping your foot remember how to spread the toes. All right, so here's a very simple drill that many people will be very aware of. Using a spiky ball, golf ball could do even the job, but basically all you're doing is you're just going to be rolling over the spiky ball, trying to find little trigger points and release the tight fascia under the foot. So it can be very useful in the process of trying to strength train to get rid of any sort of stiffness that we don't want. And usually on the spot that it's a bit tight, you want to try and leave it on, which for most people is sort of probably around here. So you try and leave it on there and just hover around that spot, and then that sort of sets the scene for you to come in and strengthen things. All right, so let's have a look at the next one. Okay, so this is another simple sort of stretching exercise. It's sort of one that's an unusual one. Really is trying to stretch through the big toe, because we'll find in a second that the big toe is very rigid, which is bad news because you really need that the most for your walking pattern. So this is sort of trying to mobilise that area just with a simple stretch, one that people don't do very often. So you're basically just trying to put your toes face down and then just stretch through them, and we get a big release through the front of the foot here, obviously. A lot of people find this very uncomfortable and really underestimate it. But a very simple drill, nothing really to do, and you just sort of leave that there for 30 seconds or so. It works well in combination with the other releasing drills and stability strengthening that we're about to do. All right, so let's have a look at the next one. Very simple way of trying to help you to get that mobility back at the ankle. All you really need is a band that you can attach around your ankle there and tie it to a post, and then just roll back and forth into really like a wall stretch for the Achilles, but it's also really just creating that dorsiflexion ankle at the ankle that you would use when you squat. The beauty of the band is it actually sort of pulls back a particular joint around the foot there that that really becomes a problem if you've had a lot of sprains. And you'll see from a front on position here, so right there is where I'm trying to sort of pull that that joint back into position to unlock my ankle to give me more range. Now the important thing is, and this is where knee problems come into it, I want to make sure that that I keep my big toe planted so that my foot stays stable, but I want to guide my knee out over the second toe, not over the big toe. So you can see I'm pointing to my big toe there. And I want to get this angle out. This is where I get hip control. So I'm learning how to keep hip control and ankle and toe positioning at the same time. So because I'm not standing up, it's a hell of a lot easier. So I can sort of move back and forth between the motion of what I'm going to use when I squat, and then this is great to use between sets. So
okay, so now we've mobilised the areas, and obviously you would be really wanting to do the things around the hip and thoracic spine and all the rest of the body at the same time, not just looking at the foot. Remember, it's one thing, because it may not be the chicken, it may be the egg. All right, so if you haven't really identified the main problem, it's all just going to come back. All right, so the next thing we need to do is stabilise. So you really need to do mobilising and stabilising at the same time. If you just release it and don't follow up with a different strategy to stabilise, you're just going to go back to what you had before. All right, so this is where a lot of people fall down. They're just doing heaps of releasing but never stabilising. So always a good quote to remember: this tight muscles show themselves lying down and the weak ones will show themselves standing up. And often we see, especially with a high arch person, where we see no real flexibility problems on the floor or isolated stretching, but when we actually ask them to move, everything stiffens right up instantly. It seems to be, how can that be like that? And that's just because they don't have a good strategy of stability. So there's many different ways we can go. I'm going to just give you a couple of quick ones just to give you an idea, but understand there's a lot more to it than this, but this will just get you started.
Okay, so here we're at the stage where we're trying to spread the toes. All right, now you would think that this would be very easy to do, but you have no idea just how difficult it is for some people. It's almost near impossible. So all you got to do is just, like I said, spread the toes. So you'll see Melissa does this. She does it quite well as well. Right? So she's sort of giving me a narrow foot, what it normally looks like, and then she just spreads the toes out. Now, when we do that, whenever you're doing really every single exercise standing up, this is crucial, right? Because we need to have what we call a tripod base. So you've got like your big toe down, your little toe down, and then your heel firmly planted. The wider this bit is, the more stable you are. The more narrow it is, obviously, the more unstable. Think of like walking on a tightrope. Think of walking on there. That's very hard to balance, but if I was to walk on a plank of wood that's that wide, that's so much easier to balance, isn't it? All right, so it's very much the same thing that happens to your body when you have a very narrow foot. That narrow foot creates the next joint, being the ankle, to try and find a way to stiffen you up so you don't fall over. All right, and that's when you'll find a lot of people cramp in the calf when they should be feeling it in the glutes. On single leg exercises, they get pain under their foot instead of feeling it in their glutes, so that the glute misses out on a heap of work. Not because there was anything wrong with it, but because the guys down below can't do the job. All right, so always think of this toe spreading is trying to widen your base of support to improve your stability. All right, so then if we, if I play this again, so you just try and widen the toes, then the next thing you want to do is learn how to strengthen through the big toe. You'll see Melissa's lifting the big toe here. All right, again, you would think that this would be very easy to do. Amazing how many people cannot lift their big toe. I ask them to lift the big toe and they lift every toe. There's just no way they can lift the big toe on its own. So it's going to take a bit of work. You might even have to manually go down and use your hand to help it until it can remember, and then you can get your strength back through the front of the foot. Because remember, when we walk and we have a walking pattern, that big toe is the first one that crunches into the ground and really feels the ground. If you've ever broken your big toe, you'll know how much you use it, and I've done it twice, so you can't walk without it. All right, so very, very, very important that you get that big toe function back. and that prevents bunions and stuff like that. So it's what we often see with that narrow foot, where that big toe you can sort of see on her left foot, which she's got issues with, or it's starting to come in. So if she gets, so it's already narrowing this foot up. So if she gets a bit wider with this big toe, makes all the difference. All right, so okay, this last drill is commonly known as short foot. This is exercise invented, I suppose you could say, by Vladimir Yanda. So now I don't use this with every single person, right? So this is very much for the person with the flat feet. The person with a high arch, this is not a good strategy. They just need to learn to widen their toes and really feel for the ground, but don't try and pull towards you, which I'm about to show you. So use this strategy whenever you're doing squats, deadlifts, lunges, standing cable press, basically every single standing exercise. So step one, widen the toes. So widen your base of support. All right, that's the very first thing you do. So get you wider. All right, the wider we are, the better. All right, so you got your little tripod stance. All right, so step one. All right, then step two, to create a bit of extra support, and I'll show you this from side on. We want to sort of get the big toe to feel like it's almost trying to pick something up. So it's going to be like trying to pick up a towel or something like that. Right, so we'll see Melissa activate through her big toe. She'll sort of drag it back, and here we go, right there, right, and you'll see there's a bit of strength. So we already start to get strengthening through here, which for the flat-footed person, hard work to do. All right, remember the high arch person don't do this. All right, and just keep the feet wide, that wide, toes wide. Sorry. All right, now you're sort of ready to start strengthening. You obviously would like to try and keep those toes spread, so like she's just done there. She's got activation at the bottom. She's got a wide base of support. Perfect time to do her lifting, lunges, single leg squats, anything single leg. This is extremely important, but like I said, for all squats, deadlifts and anything, also a great way. If you train like this all the time, you're going to you're really going to strengthen that foot, which then creates a chain reaction of great things everywhere else.
Okay, so there's some simple stability drills. Again, you really need to look at the other factors, being the other joints as well, but that's just to get you on the path. Now you really need to move into integration as soon as you can. Remember, if you're already walking around, we're already using a strategy anyway. It's just most likely not a good one. So you really need to get to this quite quickly, and you really need to train without shoes. Barefoot as much as you can. So single leg stance obviously is going to be the key. Exercises requiring the dynamic stability in multi-direction, so moving in like a circular exercise, we call that the toe touch drill. To enhance things, we might use a sensor mat, go fluctuating between a sensor mat and the floor. There's good videos, and make sure you read in the description under this video, because I'll put links in there to see all these different things that I've left out on how we might do that. Lunge patterns are great as well, using various rubber bands, as you can see I'm doing below there. Obviously we would want to have him barefoot if we identified he had some problems. Even if he didn't have problems, still better to train barefoot anyway. And then you can start to get an idea of how you're going to really incorporate the entire team. So this is where we start to see the foot, ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, back, thoracic, everything, shoulder even, all working at the same time, the right timing with the right sequence, breathing mechanics, everything. So this is where all the real big stuff's really done. But you sort of have to start by pulling everything apart first and then putting it back together. That's the only effective way to really get on top of everything. So this is where you want to really look at all your different patterns of movement and all your different joints all working as a systemated team across. If you can do all of these really well, and the single leg stuff falls in the gate stance, in the gate pattern here, you're really going to be indestructible. For more ideas on different programs, there's lots of free reports we have. You can get them at our website, and if you have injury, which most people probably watching this have injury, there's great things for back pain, piriformis syndrome with hip problems. So very much a hip related problem, this one, that can be sort of born from the foot, as can the knee problem. So these ones especially, this one a little bit to an extent, but these ones especially can be born from the foot. Alright, so I recommend if you have any knee problems, get that. If you have any hip problems, get that. But this video should just definitely give you a lot of extra insight into the foot mechanics as such. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Again, read the descriptions below with all the links in there, and that'll help you to navigate your way around more exercises to help you. All right, I'll see you on the next video.